Ms. Carasola? Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Corey?
Here.
Mr. Hayward?
Here.
Ms. Parlamas?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson?
Here.
Ms. Calvez?
Here.
Dr. Robinson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. All right. Okay, all right, perfect. All right, Mr. Corey, can I have the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and Mr. Cohen, if you're able to please do the mission statement.
The Glen School District, founded on principle of education in partnership with a supportive community, provides an exceptional education to all students to cultivate resilience, responsible, and engaged global citizens.
Thank you. All right. All right, so today, November 10th, thank you so much for everyone that is here tonight. I'll have Mr. Canellis, are you able to introduce our first presenter who's not foreign to us? Hi, Paul.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Yes, tonight we have with us Mr. Paul Lurch from Lurch, Vinci, and Bliss LLP. They are the district's auditor. They have conducted an audit of our fiscal year 24-25, and Mr. Lurch is here to report to the board how we did. Mr. Lurch?
Thank you. Yes, as James just said, this actually is my first presentation of the fiscal year. You guys always seem to be first out of the box, which is nice. We're always looking for, quite honestly, we're always looking for clients that say, hey, come on in, we're ready for you early. And inevitably what happens is that, it's like the bell curve, right? There's a group, everyone wants to go in the middle, nobody wants to go first, and nobody wants to go last. So listen, we're here to present positive things again, as part of the audit process here. We have an unmodified opinions on the financial statements as well as the single audit. So in layman's terms, it means that there are no exceptions or qualifications, anything that we need to specifically report on the financial statements as well as the single audit. There were no significant deficiencies, no material non-compliance or illegal acts. As a matter of fact, when you look at the AMR, the smaller of the two reports, the management report, there are no audit findings. So if you go to that very last page, you can see where we would summarize the list of comments and recommendations. There are no recommendations in this particular audit, and hence that's why we have clean opinions and no significant deficiencies, as I indicated. The district itself was subject to a single audit, federal and state single audit. That simply means that once you expend more than $750,000 in either federal or state program funds, it triggers an additional audit. It's identified, believe it or not, as a single audit from the federal government, which just basically means that we need to pick specific grant programs that are considered large programs, type A programs, and then we do specific compliance testing on those programs. And those compliance supplements come from the state of New Jersey as well as OMB. And then we test for those two things. So state expenditures, you had exceeded over $18 million worth of state expenditures from state aid. We did test certain grants. You are considered a low-risk auditee, which basically means that over the previous 2 years, we did test as part of a single audit, and we had no deficiencies. So when you have that category, they're considering you a low-risk auditee, which just means we have to test fewer expenditures to meet the criteria of testing 20% of your total expenditures. On the federal side, we had expended $1.4 million of expenditures. Again, a low-risk auditee because of the previous 2 years and no exceptions noted. The program that we tested on the federal side was the ARPA-ESSA, the Preschool Expansion Aid Program, and that's part of the project that you're building or we're building during the 24-25 school year. Some of the key pronouncements, and I won't get into all of them, but there was one new key pronouncement. We had a GASB 96, which was basically 3 years ago, was talking about subscription type IT items. And we had a new pronouncement this year, 101, which is compensated absences. Just generally what that means is that the GASB decided that if individuals that work for the district are starting to accrue an accumulation of a payout towards a sick or vacation time, we have to now account for that dollar value as it's accruing, as opposed to whether or not you meet that criteria. That happens to be set in specific contracts. A small wrinkle, not really a major change. Total federal funding, we talk about it every year, kind of we're winding down on the COVID and ARPA money, but the district did receive over $1.9 million over that period of time, and that's just a point of reference for you as a board member. And what I'll talk about now is just a little bit about fund balance, okay? And I think that's probably more important. And before I get into the general fund balance, I'll just talk a little bit about the capital project fund, which is the fund that accumulates all the major projects of the district. This year, the balance is winding down, $6.6 million left at the end of 25. There was a new project for roughly $4 million that the board enacted in the 24-25 school year. Certainly some of that capital project money of the unspent programs are being transferred out. Last year, $500,000 went into debt service. There's another $500,000 going in the current fiscal year budget. So as you don't spend those funds, they can go back to help the taxpayers is what you're doing. Food service fund, which handles, of course, the lunch program in the district. Sales of roughly $670,000, and we had a small loss. It's really intended to run as a nonprofit. Last year, there was a small profit. The year before was a break even. So you're running it very much as a break-even program. Community school is a little bit different. Net position or profit went up $140,000 from the year before, and total equity is $1.3 million, and that runs for the summer program for the community. And I will talk just briefly about fund balance in the general fund. General fund is obviously the operating fund that handles the majority of your transactions and the daily operations of the district itself. The district ended the year with a total fund balance of $10,014,000, slightly down from the year before. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through a progression here, and this is kind of how we do it when we go through the analysis with the business administrator. And I think it makes sense for the board members to kind of get just a brief understanding as to what happens. So in general fund, we end the year with a total surplus balance, and then we look and see what particular areas or buckets those funds are attributable to. So we have the final component is really the unreserved, unassigned fund balance, and that is basically 2% of your expenditures. So every single year we go through and we calculate your expenditures. There are modifications. You're allowed to retain 2%. Used to be 4% for a period of time when COVID came about, and if you go way back 20 some odd years, 25 years, it was 6% and change. Those numbers have come down. So you're allowed to retain basically, without going through some of the exceptions, 2% of your expenditures. It's roughly $1.5 million. So if you look at this year's report compared to last year's report, it's really unchanged. So that's your rainy day amount of money that can be retained. So for the board members, I'm actually on page 71, and I'm just kind of going through the bottom of Exhibit C1. So that's the maximum amount that you can retain. After we go through the progression, if there's money left over that isn't designated for a particular reserve, it'll go into excess surplus. So that's the last piece of the progression. So we start up from the bottom. We're limited to 2%, and that's my $1.5 million. Then there's reserve for encumbrances, roughly $390,000. Simply means that there's goods and services that were ordered by the district, but we didn't spend the money and we didn't receive the goods by the end of June. It means we're reserving those funds because they're going to roll into next year's budget. Then I'm going to come up to unemployment. Unemployment is unchanged from the year before. It's money that's been set aside over years, specifically for the purpose of paying for unemployment claims as they come through. Again, unchanged at that point. And then we get into the various reserves. Next one is emergency reserves, $209,000, unchanged from the year before. As the name indicates, it's really intended for emergent purposes. It used to be very difficult to get out. It's a little easier now because now you can use it for security-type purposes. But again, that number is really unchanged, $200,000. And that money you can put in by board resolution or budget during the year. But it was unchanged, so nothing happened. No money was put in, and none of the funds were withdrawn. Maintenance reserve is the next item, which is $525,000. That is money that's set aside to maintain the facilities. So we operate the facilities in our operating fund, and then we have the ability to set money aside to maintain those facilities, and that's in your maintenance fund. That number changed from $200,000 last year. We ended with $625,000 in total. Part of the money came in through the district budget. Part of it came in through a resolution that the board members enact in June of every year. You allow a certain amount of money to be put into the maintenance reserve as well as the capital reserve, and that's what you're doing here. So we ended the year with $625,000 in the maintenance reserve. And you're limited by that amount. You're limited to roughly $2 million based upon a calculation. So we're nowhere near that dollar value. And the last item is capital reserve when it comes to the reserves. And as the maintenance reserve is intended to pay for the maintenance of the facilities, capital reserve is to improve and build new facilities and other type of improvements. Generally, you're limited to your long-range facility plan as to the maximum amount that you can retain in that capital reserve, which is somewhere in the vicinity of $18 million, so you're nowhere close. The board ended the year in the capital reserve of $3.7 million, started the year at $5 million. And what happened is that monies were deposited through the budget, monies were deposited through the resolution at the end of the year. We had returned some unexpended monies from previous years for specific projects that came back to capital reserve. If we're going to fund it with that, we're not going to use all those proceeds, it comes back. So basically, $5 million, we created another $2.8 million through basically what I just indicated to you. And then the board drew $4.2 million for improvements, and that's for the latest project that you're doing. So, and that's basically what the capital reserve is intended to be used for. So as you go through those total progression, you end the year with $10 million. We know we can maximize. We can only retain $1.5 million. We have all these other reserves. What's left? Whatever's left becomes excess surplus. So this year, the excess surplus after we went through that progression was $1.3 million. So that simply means when you develop next year's budget, which is going to be 26-27, you'll be starting out with $1.3 million, which is going to be balancing the budget. The year that we're in this year, it's $1.4 million. So when I presented the audit last year, the excess surplus was $1.4 million from the year before, which now you're utilizing to balance the budget. It's the minimum amount you have to use. And unless anyone has any specific questions, I don't really have anything else to add. Sure.
Thank you. That was a great overview. The maintenance reserve, is that most schools have a maintenance reserve, or is that unique to, do you see that, you do a lot of audits?
I do, and most have them.
Most have them.
Almost everyone has a capital reserve if you can, right? Unless you're in a situation, a financial situation that you can't afford to do that because you've got other issues, right? But almost every school has capital reserve monies that they're using for facilities. And then maintenance reserves, very, very popular as well. It's used all the time. Emergency reserve is really one of those that's probably not that common in the schools. It was utilized in the beginning when we were looking ways to keep more than the 2% surplus in cash. And that was one of the ways you were able to do it, but it was very difficult to get out. So, yeah, maintenance reserve, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Willis.
Just following this, you see a lot of towns and you see the problematic ones and successful ones, and based on other town number, with things that you see, are we in line, or are we trending correctly with the reserves? Is there anything that you see as a concern? Is there anything that we need to think about?
Well, I think that, a couple of ways to answer that question. From a financial perspective, you're only limited to your maximum 2%, right? So you want to have that, and then you really want to generate surplus after that and create as much as you can into these reserves. It's much easier to build projects and do improvements through the maintenance reserve as opposed to going to the voters and asking for debt approval. So that's why a lot of schools are doing that. One of the things that you have to be careful of, and James and I spoke about this, is the excess surplus. When we start relying on this excess surplus, it becomes a crutch, right? I know it's been reduced by $100,000, and I know James has a plan, and you want to be able to get to the point where it's a reoccurring number and it's not a crutch anymore. Because ideally, you'd like to be able to put as much as you can into the capital reserves. As far as how you compare to other school districts, I think what I would focus on if I was a board member, I would look at the fact that we have no audit comments. I would look at the fact that we have a clean opinion. And I think that really comes down to, again, as to who you have in leadership, right? It always comes down to that. It's a people game at the end. And I think that, certainly, the job that James has done over the past, I guess, is it 2 years now? 2 years. It's been terrific when you consider, the complexity. This is not a small little K-8 operation, right? Where we have 2 schools and it's simple, and really no major problems. And then coming off of the heels of Michael as well, and Michael ran a very good ship as well because he was here for such a long period of time. So I think that's key, and that's how I would measure other schools, right? Financially, where are you? Are you running deficits? Are you having a state takeover? And I know I don't need to editorialize, but we all read the paper with Montclair, right? Those are the kind of problems you don't want to have, And I know that I feel very confident because we do a thorough audit. So, we're always looking under every rock if we can. And, but again, I think it's just indicative of the leadership you have, so.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much, Mr. Lurch. That was fantastic as always, so thank you.
We appreciate being here. Thank you for having us, so.
Yeah, and thank you, James, for putting us into this, into a good financial position, because, we're looking at many other schools, monthly that are falling into financial ruin, and it's really important to us, and so thank you for maintaining this district in good fiscal control.
Have a nice holiday, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson, I would be remiss in stating the obvious, that it's obviously not a one-man show. And the business office as a team is really where the credit is due. And without them, the transition from Mr. Rinderknecht would not have been possible.
Thank you, and thank them. All right.
All right, on to our next presentation. This is the NJSLA test results presentation that is required every year. The state has a list of requirements for our CUSAC accreditation, all that, and one of those is presenting this data to the board. So I have the pleasure of kicking it off, and then we'll bring up a variety of people to kind of talk through more specifics about it. Let me get to it here. Okay, so first of all, districts are required, as I said, to report the test results to the Board of Education. Some of the data you'll see will have gaps or dots or something. That's when if I have a subgroup that's fewer than 10 children. It's for privacy purposes. We can't report on that. And the other thing is that we have to present the participation rate for each test and school. So you'll see all of that. What was tested? So same as what's been tested the last several years: English Language Arts, grades 3 through 9, math, grades 3 through 8, and then also Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, but only students that are in the 9th grade or less, lower grade. So any sophomore, junior is not included in this data. Science is tested in grades 5, 8, and 11. And then we also test WIDA, which is the test that we give for our multi-language learner students, and the DLM test, which is for special education students. So who was tested, I think, is an important piece to think about. These were the grades from last year. And the reason I have it kind of offset here on this chart here is because of the next slide. And that is to think about who these kids were during COVID, right? So this year's, or last year's third grade children were in kindergarten that first year back 21, 22 when it was a hybrid education year. So the fourth graders were a year behind that. And just kind of keeping in context who these children are and what their education progress has been, what it was like. What was it like to be a kindergartner during a hybrid education, or a first grader if you stayed at home, or something like that. So let's keep in mind that it feels like it's a long time ago in some ways, but for a lot of these kids, their foundational years were during that time. So let's just keep that in mind about who are these children. So we will look at, I said we had to talk about participation rates. So you can see between 97 and 100% of our students in each of these grades participate. As you recall, many years ago when the test was the PARCC test, the state exhibited a lot of opt-outs and test refusals. So the state makes sure that we report that so that you all know the data you're looking at is representative of the whole district, not just a few. And we have very high participation rates here and always have. And here it is that was for language arts. This is for math. Again, 96 through 100%. And here we have for science, 99 and 100%. The presentation will be talking about a lot of numbers up there, what percentage of students, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're really talking about are the students that are meeting expectations or above. And so I don't know why they call it different ways, but they do. Math and language arts, there are 5 levels of performance. We label level 4 as met expectations, to level 5 as exceeded. In science, not sure why, they have 4 levels of performance, and they call them proficient and advanced proficient, but that's what we're looking at. So when we say X% of students, we're either talking about 3s and 4s for science or 4s and 5s for language arts, just so you know kind of our shorthand. And so we're going to get started with language arts, and we're going to hear from Supervisors Sherry Krapels and Nicole Hirsch.
Ms. Hirsch and I are going to be sort of handing it back and forth as we talk about elementary stuff and then middle high school stuff and district-wide versus sort of the more focused pieces. So taking a look at this, this is our 3rd through 9th grade. This is all of our students who tested NJSLA for ELA, and these are our kids who are meeting or exceeding expectations. So those are our level 4 and 5 students. Across the board, so you see the red columns are the state, the blue columns are us. Across the board, we're exceeding the state in percentages of students earning 4s and 5s this year by an average of 27%, which is a nice strong lead over the state. We've got a high of 31% in 5th grade and by 30% or more in 5th, 6th, and 8th grades. Our 8th graders performed particularly well this year. 88% of the students in that grade met or exceeded expectations, which is a number we're really proud of. Our overall path tracks with the states, but we're naturally going to have greater variability year to year because of our much smaller sample size, right? So we're looking at grades of about 200 students. It just means that the year-to-year changes are going to look a lot bigger than they look at the state level because of the fact that one student is going to constitute just a much greater percentage than at the state level. So you can see at the state, like grades 3 and 9 are the low points for the state. That's where we're lower as well. Year over year, you're going to see greater variability in grades 3 and 9 for us than you will at the state level because we're just talking about a much smaller number of students.
Sherry, let me interrupt for just a second.
Sure.
2 things I forgot to say.
Yes.
The one is the sample size is really important, especially when we start talking about elementary schools. We could be talking about 40 kids, right? So a couple kids changing performance level can have pretty large effects on our graphs up here. And the second thing I meant to say is we do a lot of these comparisons against the state because that's the data we have right now. And because that's what CUSAC requires we do. I know that people want us to present how do we compare to other districts similar to us. We don't have that data until the springtime. So this is the data that we have because the state provides it. And we will look at that other data when we can, but tonight's not the night.
And so this, we're looking at just us. We're looking at Glen Rock over the years, and you can see the two columns furthest on the left, the blue and the red, those are pre-COVID, and then everything else is post-COVID. So what you can see is at the elementary level, we're pretty consistently following the trends of the state. 4th and 5th grade have essentially returned to pre-COVID scores. So you can see that in 4th and 5th grade, we're returning to our pre-COVID levels at scores. And our 3rd graders, they've remained relatively consistent over the last 2 years. We're not quite back at those pre-COVID scores yet, but they're growing and they've stayed consistent over the last 2 years. And then this is the same chart, but for grades 6 through 9. So the first look at something like this is just comparing against pre-COVID. So 6th grade has returned to pre-COVID scores. 8th grade is exceeding our pre-COVID scores, which is really nice to see. 9th grade dipped from last year. It's still higher than our initial return from COVID. It's continuing an overall upward trend, and I'm going to speak a little bit more to the 9th grade scores in just a minute. But the most important way of looking at this data is really to look at student cohorts. So the light blue column of ELA 9, they are represented by the yellow in ELA 8, orange in ELA 7, and green in ELA 6, right? That's tracking a group of kids over years. And so I want to just take a minute to talk about each of those cohorts and how those cohorts of students have grown. So the 6th graders, their past performance isn't represented on this chart because in past years they were in elementary school. But that this year's scores have eliminated what we were seeing, a sort of dip in 6th grade scores. This group eliminated that dip. Their performance has consistently grown and then remained steady from 5th grade to 6th. So in 3rd grade, 69% of them met or exceeded standards, which grew to 79% in 4th grade, 85% in 5th grade, and then held steady at 86% in 6th grade this year. So that's a group that's shown a nice upward path. They're holding steady. So they're doing really well. 7th grade, their cohort dipped a little bit last year. 87% of them met or exceeded in 5th grade. It dropped to 74 in 6th grade, but they've bounced back. They're back up at 82.2% of students meeting or exceeding. So again, when we track students over the course of time, what we want to see is that the kids are growing. 8th grade, this group has seen consistent year-over-year growth. In 6th grade, 65% of them met or exceeded. 75% in 7th, and this year 88% of them in 8th grade. So they're showing a nice upward trend. 9th grade, this group is just a little bit more of a mixed bag. So 71% of them met or exceeded expectations as 9th graders. They performed better than that in 7th and 8th grade, at 84 and 83% respectively, but their 6th grade performance was lower at about 68% meeting or exceeding. So this group, like their performance over time has not been even, it's been a little bit funny. They jumped up, they popped back down. Their 9th grade scores are not as low as their 6th grade scores, but it's important to remember that their 6th grade scores was the return from COVID year, right? So this group, just their testing trajectory is a little bit different than other groups. I want to point out that when we look at that 9th grade graph, it looks like performance has dropped drastically in the 9th grade. It's a 20-point difference from last year. But when we look at just those kids, right, it's only it's a loss of 13%, which isn't nothing, but it's not 20% either, right? So when we're looking at this type of data, we definitely want to look at the grades and how they're performing over time, but we also really want to focus on the kids. It makes more sense to my mind to track kids over time rather than 9th grade, which is a capsule, right? 9th grade holds them for a year, but then they move on to 10th. So that's what we're looking at there. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
So when we look at these graphs, like Mr. Van Ness said, one thing to keep in mind is that relatively small sample size. So a change in 1 or 2 students at the elementary level can make a huge impact on a building's performance because there's so few students in each grade level at each building. So as an administrative team, as teachers, like we expect that variability in each building's scores year after year. It's more helpful for us to look at our district performance, and that is relatively stable. When we look at our 3rd grade performance compared to the state's performance, we more or less follow the trend of the state with scores for 3rd graders statewide not yet returning to pre-COVID levels. And as Mr. Van Ness said earlier, last year's cohort of 3rd graders were in kindergarten during COVID. Again, with grade 4, we see the district following the trend of the state, and once again, we expect that variability in buildings because of the small sample size. When we look at grade 5 ELA scores, although there's some variation on the school level, at the district level, performance is pretty consistent, and we remain at pre-COVID 19 COVID 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 Looking at the overall scores gives us one picture of our performance, but there are also other indicators that we can use to measure our success. One such measure is looking at our district's performance compared to the state on the standards that were assessed at each grade level. When we conduct this analysis, we can see that Glen Rock Elementary students outperformed the state on all standards assessed in both reading and writing. This indicates that we take a comprehensive approach to our literacy instruction and that our curriculum is well developed in reading and writing and aligns with the expectations of the state. Our elementary students exceeded the state percentage of students scoring 4s and 5s by at least 26%, with a high of 31.4% in grade 5. Our fifth graders' writing performance was particularly noteworthy, with the district outperforming the state by about 20 percentage points in written expression, writing knowledge, and literary analysis. We'll now take a look at some of the strategies that we've put into place to help our students in literacy. This year, we're continuing our rollout of our K-5 phonics program. We implemented Sunday last school year for grades K to 3. This school year, we implemented the program in grades 4 and 5. We provided training to all 4th and 5th grade teachers this August, and we also included all new classroom teachers in this training as well. Based on the feedback that we received from our 4th and 5th grade teachers after the August training, they had some concerns about like the nuances of the program for 4th and 5th graders and like the complexities of morphology. So we actually brought the trainer back in October to help address some of those concerns and provide additional support for our 4th and 5th grade teachers. At the elementary level, we've been working on promoting consistent and unified practices across the district. When we have consistent systems and shared expectations across our 4 buildings, it benefits everyone. Our teachers know what's expected and can support one another more easily. Our students experience continuity as they move from one grade or to another grade or building to building, and as a district, we're better able to measure our growth, identify where students need support, and celebrate our successes collectively. With that in mind, we've been working on unifying our approaches, recognizing that all of our buildings have their unique strengths, but when our core practices are consistent, it gives us a stronger foundation to build on. We've had professional development for our K-3 staff on reviewing expectations for Sunday now that they're in the year 2 of implementation. We've also had a large number of staff new to teaching 4th grade this year, so we are building in district-wide 4th grade meetings regularly, as well as providing the 4th grade teachers with regular opportunities to work with their building-based intervention coach. We've also had targeted professional development on strategies for supporting multilingual learners the last 2 years, and we'll continue that work this year. We also have expanded our use of DIBELS this year to all students in grades K to 3 to meet the requirements of the new New Jersey Literacy Bill. We've used DIBELS as our early literacy screener for many years now, and all that's really changed is we've expanded its use to meet the requirements of this new bill. This just gives us some additional information about all of our students in grades K to 3. Our coaches are offering coaching cycles based on analyzing the DIBELS data to inform their instruction. And we're continuing to enhance our MTSS practices district-wide. 2 summers ago, we made improvements to the INRS process at the elementary level to promote unified practices. We updated the action plan and referral forms, and this summer, the elementary team made revisions based on the feedback we received after the first year of implementing these changes. We continue to offer BSI reading and continue to refine the WIN period at the elementary level.
So back to 6 to 9. Well, I can see it, you can't. So in 6 through 9, students continue to outperform the state on all standards assessed in both reading and writing across middle school and high school. To Ms. Hirsch's point, we're looking at a well-rounded, comprehensive curriculum with a good balance of skills in reading, both informational and literature, and writing, which includes literary analysis, research, simulation, and narrative writing tasks. We also continue to exceed the state on 4s and 5s earned in the 6 through 9 band. Particularly, it's at 27%, a high of 31% in 8th grade, and then in 6th and 8th grade, we're exceeding by 30% or more. The number of 6th graders this year earning a score of meeting or exceeding increased by 12%, so you can think of that as roughly one class section, right? Like if we're thinking about the percentage as it relates to a whole class, an actual population of students, it's about a class section of kids who have now moved up to meeting or exceeding. And similarly, 6th through 9th graders showed strengths in writing. They outperformed the state by at least 20% on all criteria and tasks. We are doing some things to work with our students who we want to see improve, right? So when we're talking about scores tonight, to Mr. Van Ness's point, we're talking about those 1 through 5s. But the way that the reports, the way that data comes home to families, and you've all seen these, the score is reported 1 to 5, but also that's 650 to 850, right? And when we look at the 650 to 850 numbers, we can capture a little bit more on a granular level what's going on with kids than we can with just the 4 or 5, because the bands aren't even. But one of the things that we noticed is that our kids who were losing ground from 5th to 6th grade were our highest achievers. Our kids who were performing super tippy top 5th grade, those were our kids whose scores were contracting the most when they came to 6th grade. And so we wanted to make sure that we addressed our kids in that band. So we want to make sure that we're using strategies that are addressing those high achievers to continue to challenge them and to help them grow. So to that end, we've purchased new books for 6th grade, both curricular texts and independent reading texts that are sitting at that higher reading level that's going to really help challenge kids, give them rich text to work with, and to give every kid in the classroom a chance to sort of stand on their tippy toes for a text. Another thing that we've done in 6th grade is we've implemented a vocabulary program called Membean. And what's really nice about Membean is that it's guided by AI, and it develops individualized vocabulary lists for every student. And so a student takes a sort of placement exercise at the beginning, it develops a list for them, and then they're brought through a series of exercises that are personalized to them, a learning path that is personalized to them, so that kids are getting, again, vocabulary instruction explicitly that's really tailored to right where they are, which means that we're going to meet all of our kids across the spectrum. It's personalized, and so it's really going to reach our kids who are kind of on the tails. We're also working on redesigning units and lessons to incorporate specific standards and skills that are identified for areas of growth. So we do get reports sort of on a more granular level, standard by standard, and where we're seeing that we have areas for growth, we're targeting those directly in different units and lessons. Another thing that we're doing this year is we're facilitating twice monthly planning meetings for reading and writing teachers in the 6th grade, specifically with a focus on realigning writing units and reading units, with a goal of increasing the number of published writing pieces. We want to make sure that our kids are writing more voluminously. We've also created an interdisciplinary PLC across the 6th grade, so it encompasses 6th grade social studies, reading, writing, and special education teachers. What we're doing for those folks is we're providing quarterly professional development that's devoted to to aligning practices and expectations around reading nonfiction and informational texts specifically, so that that is shared language across all of their classes, and talking about reading and writing strategies that work in our reading and writing classrooms, also in our social studies classrooms, so that for kids, language and expectations are aligned all the way across 6th grade. We're also working on redesigning benchmark assessments to be modeled after NJSLA parentheses A, right? We've got that new one coming up. The assessments in grades 6 through 9. So in addition to regular planning meetings, what we've also implemented this year are benchmark data meetings. So I'm sitting down with my teacher teams and reviewing their benchmark data from the benchmark assessments that they're already giving quarterly. And we're talking about where we're seeing strengths and weaknesses, how we can make sure that these assessments are preparing our kids for NJSLA A, NJGPA A, whatever that ends up looking like, but really making sure that we're targeting the needs that we're seeing. And that's it for ELA. Next up, we've got Ms. Della Fortuna, who's going to come talk about math, and Ms. Hirsch, who's going to stay to talk about math.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm excited to be reporting on our math scores. So when we look at our testing data, one key point to highlight is that our Math 8 performance, while that percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in Math 8 are close to the state average, it's important to remember that we have far fewer students that sit for the Math 8 assessment compared to other state tests in our district. So since that's a smaller testing group, that can influence our overall percentages and make the comparison less direct. Even so, our trend closely mirrors the state performance pattern, and overall, we continue to outperform the state in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations across all tested areas. This reflects a strong alignment between our curriculum and our state standards, as well as the ongoing commitment of our teachers to support student growth and achievement over time. So as we look at our performance trends in grade 3 through 5, we see a very positive picture. For the 2025 school year, both grade 4 and 5 showed an increase in percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations on the state test. This upward trend reflects a strong instructional practices and continued focus on both foundational and critical thinking skills as our students move through the elementary grades. Overall, our grades 3 through 5 continue to demonstrate high levels of achievement, showing consistency and growth across the grade levels. This is a strong indicator that our early math programs are effectively preparing students for success as they progress through our curriculum and grades. When we look at our middle school and high school performance, there are a number of encouraging trends to highlight. Specifically, we see an increase in percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations across grades 6, 7, 8, and geometry. This consistent growth across multiple grade levels shows that our instructional focus and curriculum alignment are making a real impact. It's also worth noting that in Algebra 2, only 14 students sat for the state assessment this year. This is a relatively small testing group made up of accelerated grade 9 students. As Mr. Van Ness said, we only test through grade 9, so these are Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2 are mixed grade level courses. So Algebra 1 specifically is a standout area for us. This has been really a focus for us over the past couple of years, showing steady improvement from previous years. In fact, the 23-25 results, those 3 years, represent the highest percentage of students meeting or exceeding state standards since 2018. So we're very proud of our Algebra 1 students and teachers. In the terms of state testing preparation for Algebra 1, we did have a mixed grade level of grade 9 and middle school, which also may include some accelerated grade 7 students. For geometry, we had about 90 grade 9 students at GRHS, along with some accelerated grade 8 students at GRMS. The distribution reflects our approach to providing accelerated learning opportunities at a variety of levels while maintaining rigorous instruction for all students. Overall, I'm very proud of the consistent upward trend in our math performance. These results highlight a strong commitment of our math staff to teaching the state standards with rigor, ensuring our students' long-term success as they advance through the mathematics sequence. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hirsch.
Thank you. So just like we saw in the ELA data, we can expect that variability in each building because of that relatively small sample size within a given building. As a district, our scores in grade 3 continue to follow the trends of the state. Similarly, in grade 4, we've been fairly consistent over the years. We do see an increase in percentage of students meeting or exceeding in grade 4, and we've returned to pre-COVID levels, or actually exceeding pre-COVID levels in grade 4. We also see Central School in particular has had a significant increase in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding over the last 2 years. Again, for 5th grade, as a district, we're fairly consistent over the years, and we continue to see that increase in percentage of students meeting or exceeding this year. And we, again, are back to pre-COVID levels for 5th grade. Just like for literacy, in math, we have the ability to analyze our performance by standard. When we do that analysis, we see that we've outperformed the state on all standards assessed in math for elementary students. It's important to note that this includes both our content standards and the more challenging modeling and reasoning questions that often involve multiple steps and higher order thinking. We continue to exceed the state at the elementary level with the percentages of 4s and 5s earned, this year by an average of 37.2% for elementary, with a high of 41.3% in grade 5. We saw an increase for 4th and 5th graders meeting or exceeding, specifically in grade 4, which saw a 4% increase. To continue to strengthen our math instruction and help our students think deeply about math, we're implementing the following. First, it's important to note that the new state standards for math went into effect this year, but we didn't just make changes this year. We began our work as early as 3 years ago to prepare for these changes. We strengthened our existing K-2 math routines to support these changes, building them out 2 years ago and reviewing them with the staff at the start of each school year. The math committee and Ms. Dalla Fortuna also analyzed our curriculum 2 summers ago to align with the new standards, building in supports or additional lessons where needed. As we continue to talk about consistent practices district-wide, one of the conversations we've been having is around consistent assessment practices and scoring practices in elementary math. The math committee will be doing work this year to support these practices. Our math curriculum prioritizes effective research-based strategies that promote mathematical thinking, reasoning, and content, and also encourages opportunities for small group learning. We continue to not only use our NJSLA data and our unit testing data, but also our day-to-day formative assessments to drive instruction, promoting our MTSS and Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports. We offer BSI Math and continue to look at ways we can strengthen and support our BSI Math program. We also continue to work on implementing and refining the WIN period in the elementary classrooms. Finally, we offer professional development in math to teachers, including PD offered at our October Professional Development Day on building thinking classrooms. We also did a unified practices workshop on the October PD Day to promote alignment and consistency across the district with math assessment practices. Our buildings are offering building-based math PLCs, and many district teachers, coaches, and myself got to attend a workshop with Dr. Jennifer Lemp, which promoted mathematical reasoning routines and improving small group instruction in math. The teachers and coaches who attended these sessions are turnkeying the information to other staff members, and we're building a culture where we're all viewing ourselves as learners who are growing together.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Some notable achievements in secondary mathematics. We are seeing an increased number of students meeting or exceeding on the state test. In grade 6, we saw nearly a 4% increase of percentage of students meeting or exceeding in state standards. Grade 7, we showed even greater progress with an increase of almost 8%, while our Math 8 scores also had a significant gains of 9% increase of percentage of students meeting or exceeding. In geometry, students also demonstrated notable improvement with approximately a 6% increase in percentage of students meeting or exceeding on state standard. This continued improvement at high school level is really important to note that our foundational skills and problem solving happening in the middle school is supporting students as they progress through the math sequence. Overall, these results reflect a collective effort from students, teachers, and administration, and demonstrate our strategies for targeted instruction, data-driven decision-making, and student engagement are having a measurable impact. Over the past 5 years, one of my primary goals has been to review and refine math curriculum to ensure both vertical and horizontal alignment across the grade levels. This year, we've made it all the way to calculus. In the summer, we achieved full curriculum alignment between grade 6 through calculus, ensuring all courses are coherent, connected, and clearly aligned to the state standards. Along with this, we've updated all corresponding curriculum documents, providing teachers with clear guidance and resources to support effective instruction. We continue the implementation of standards-aligned benchmark assessments, which allow us to accurately measure student progress throughout the school year. These assessments give teachers timely data to adjust instruction and support student learning. Another key focus has been collaborative planning meetings with the teachers and myself. During these sessions, we discuss best practices, analyze student achievement data, and support the implementation of the state standards. This collaboration ensures that students are meeting grade level mathematics expectations and help maintain consistency across our classrooms. Together with the support and commitment and collaboration of our math teachers, these efforts strengthen both instruction and student outcomes, keeping our math program rigorous, cohesive, and focused on growth. One of our new intervention strategies for this school year is we're implementing Tier 2 intervention sessions for eligible students in grades 6 to 8. These sessions are designed to provide targeted supports to students who need additional assistance to meet grade level expectations. Planning for these interventions began in the spring, with strategies carefully developed based on student data to ensure support is individualized and effective. Students' progress will be closely monitored through the quarterly data tracking with their current teachers, allowing us to adjust interventions as needed to maximize student growth. Math teachers and I are collaborating to identify eligible students based on clear criteria, which include state testing performance and current mathematics course performance, and provide ongoing targeted interventions throughout the year, ensuring a coordinated, consistent approach. So we began implementation of the program in Q1 with a single grade 7 group, which was largely successful. Building on that, we'll have small group interventions now running across all grade levels, 6 to 8 in Q2, specifically to support students who are not yet meeting grade level expectations. Overall, this has been in the works, and I'll give you a little bit about the timeline. So in the summer, we started researching different models, finalizing the structure and teacher assignments, providing the staff overview, distributing referral checklists, and aligning interventions with the New Jersey State Learning Standards focus areas. September, we started to complete referral checklists and finalize the roster for grade 7 and notify those families. For October through June, we had a quarter 1 session run with grade 7. Grade 6 and 7 and 8 will all start in quarter 2. It's going to be 2 sessions per rotation during lunch. Small group instruction using curriculum support materials, teacher-created resources, and NJSLA resources. We're going to have ongoing collaborations and adjustments between myself and my math teachers. We're going to be doing quarterly monitoring to assess the eligibility each quarter, and families will be notified if their students are eligible for the math intervention session. Come June, we'll kind of evaluate the outcomes and refine implementation for the next school year. This approach ensures that students who need extra support to reach grade level expectations receive targeted, data-driven instruction in a flexible, responsive structure. You'll see a lot of the same professional learning as Ms. Hirsch had noted. We have been working together for a number of years, so I think we have philosophically aligned. And so as far as our professional learning, you'll see very similar ideas and philosophies. So our mathematics department continues to focus on aligning practices through a combination of job-embedded professional learning, curriculum development, and external workshops. These efforts ensure that instruction is both rigorous and responsive to student needs. At the 6 to 12 level, we're continuing reviewing course scope and sequence to make certain that both instructional and assessment practices are fully aligned with state standards. This ongoing process helps us maintain consistency and high expectations across all grade levels. For the 25-26 school year, many of our math teachers are attending a variety of workshops with a focus on small group instruction, which allows for teachers to differentiate learning and provide targeted support. Tier 1 interventions, ensuring that all students receive the foundational instruction they need, and then also engaging students in productive struggle, helping students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Some of our ongoing initiatives from the past 5 years include implementation of building thinking classroom strategies to encourage deeper mathematical reasoning. At the high school, we've been focusing really on effective group work strategies to enhance collaboration and learning outcomes in the classroom. In the previous 2 years, we've also, and going to be continuing this year, a partnership with the Knowles Teacher Initiative, which continues to provide professional development and support effective teaching practices. Additionally, the math department participates in an annual book study where teachers meet regularly during our department meetings to unpack the strategies from the selected book and apply them to the classroom, fostering continued growth and reflection. Together, these initiatives reflect our commitment to improving instruction, promoting student engagement, and supporting teachers in implementing research-based practices. I'm now going to turn it over to Ms. O'Hagan and Ms. Hirsch for science.
Thank you.
Good evening. We are pleased to share the 2025 NJSLA data with you. What stands out most clearly in this data is Glen Rock's amazing in science. We are excelling. All right. What did I do? In this slide, we don't have as much data as math or ELA does. There's what seems to be much less to talk about with it because we only have testing in grade 5, grade 8, grade 11. And the data that the state gives back to us, the reports we get, only are based on the basic disciplines, earth and space science, life science, physical science, and then the science practices, which are sense-making, critiquing, and investigating. So we don't get like a breakdown of each of those things. Years ago, when this test first started, we used to get a breakdown of standards, and we could really pick apart where we needed to improve upon or what we needed to enrich, and we don't get it as much. We don't get anything beyond that. So what we do have is we have grade 5, 8, and 11, and you can see that we outperform the state in all 3 grade levels. We outperform the state in every tested grade. We outperform the state in also by wide margins in the 3 disciplines of science and the 3 science practices. Let's see. We're also seeing strong evidence in slides such as this that our curricular decisions are working. Our high school students demonstrated proficiency in earth and space science, which you can't see in this breakdown, but that's a big point because we don't have a standalone course in the high school for earth and space science. So those standards were integrated into our other science courses to make sure that students see the progression of standards as they go through high school. Our middle school program is not differentiated by discipline, it's spiraled, which means that they experience all 3 disciplines of science every year that they're in science class. I joined the district in January this year, and it's been a genuine joy to see Open SciEd being used in the middle school. This is the 2nd year that they're implementing it, and they're doing it with fidelity. So next year's 8th grade scores, I'm very confident that they're going to be amazing because that will be the first cohort to have had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade with Open SciEd. So I can't wait to talk to you then. But what else I want to say here? I'm sorry. So if we compare these results that you see with previous academic years, again, we can't see what our students did like in 7th grade and 6th grade, but we can see some relative stability with this. While we don't have that yearly data that you see in ELA math, we do have enough to see it. The consistency here is what matters. The students aren't just performing well one year, they're building those learning progressions that we're going to see when they get into high school. It's you.
Again, at the elementary level, there is variation at the school level. At the district, though, our performance has been trending upward. A small sample size can significantly alter the data, but we're also looking closely at the trends and patterns we see here. So, for example, many buildings showed a dip in 2024, but then this year's scores returned to higher than they were previously. Elementary science is really laying a nice groundwork for inquiry and the scientific reasoning that students will build on in middle school and beyond. And our science program at the elementary school really aligns beautifully with what the students will experience when they enter 6th grade and start the Open SciEd program. Across all grade levels, we're exceeding the state by a substantial margin, including in 5th grade, where our students surpass 70%. We also see this in grades 8 and 11. They're outperforming the state by 24.8% and 26.5% respectively. Our percentages here indicate strong mastery in investigating, sense-making, and critiquing, all of which are science and engineering practices, and none of which involve just like memorizing things in a rote way. Our students are proving that they can do science, not just answer questions about science.
So our intervention strategies for science, based on the data we have and what we see in our classrooms and anecdotal evidence from the teachers, our middle school teachers are in their 2nd year of using Open SciEd. And again, this is a spiral curriculum. It lends itself very well to being ready for that test in 8th grade where they're going to experience all 3 domains of science. It leads to students through a progression through the science practices. One thing that we are integrating this year is the practice items from the NJDOE. They've released practice items for every standard, for every grade, and teachers can use those in their classrooms so that students can interact with the practice items. So it's kind of like doing a PSAT in class. They can see what the test is going to look like, especially tests that they only see every few years. When they sit down for it, there are multiple tabs they have to open. They're looking at multiple data sets to answer questions, to follow the prompts. So it's important that they at least see that. So even in non-testing years, teachers are using the released practice items to help students really get familiar with the format. We just want to eliminate that as something that might be affecting scores. Elementary school teachers are implementing Inspire Science curriculum to foster those inquiry skills. Our department is focusing on MTSS strategies. We're using our benchmark data. We are also doing benchmark assessments each quarter. I meet with the teachers and we talk about where the students are at and what we're going to do as far as what strategies we can use in the classroom for students that might be struggling or need a little bit of enrichment. They might not be struggling, they just need a challenge. Science practices tend to shift our results. Like if we focus on these science practices, maybe we can shift our results a little bit more into that level 4 and level 3, because again, we don't have level 5. In closing, 2025 science results affirm what we've hope to see, that we're very strong in science, that we are exceeding the state. This year, I was honored to serve on a writing committee with Mike Hines, the science coordinator. I'm one of 20 selected, and we got to make some decisions and review the state science standards and see what changes we were going to make. There are going to be some changes, but very minor. And I'm very proud of Glen Rock for having Open SciEd. I know I keep focusing on the middle school curriculum. It just sets them up so well for their future in high school and for taking AP and advanced courses if they want to, or exploring different careers. So I can't tell you how excited I was to see that when I first came here. That's definitely the most exciting part. I want to thank you for your support of science education in the district. I'm proud of our students. I'm very grateful to our teachers, and I'm very excited to see about where we're headed. So that's it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here to talk about some of our smaller subgroups. So in terms of language arts, in grades 4, 6, and 8, 50% or more of students met or exceeded expectations. I also just want to note that in terms of special education test scores, what the data and the charts tonight do not necessarily show, it doesn't take into consideration individual student growth from year to year, as Ms. Krapels had so eloquently described earlier in her presentation. So what we do internally is that we take a look at the individual test scores and we look at student growth individually from year to year. The other thing that it does not take into account for students, it only accounts for accommodations, not the modifications that they perhaps may receive on a day-to-day basis in the assessments and activities that they see in their classrooms. The other important thing to note also is that, no different as discussed before, Glen Rock itself is a very small sample size, and then we're taking out an even smaller sample size from what is already very small. So Glen Rock compared to the state, while this data is not necessarily included in tonight's presentation with the graphs, Glen Rock students with IEPs consistently outperform state averages in every tested area in ELA, often by more than double the statewide percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations. So for mathematics, over half are meeting or exceeding expectations in grades 3 through 5. Again, comparatively speaking to the state, across all math grade levels, Glen Rock students are consistently outperforming their peers statewide in the percentage of meeting or exceeding expectations. Particularly in grades 3 through 5, they have shown strong results, often doubling or even tripling the state percentages. So in science, in grade 5, just around 1/3 of students are proficient or advanced proficient. Again, comparatively speaking to the state peers, Glen Rock students are outperforming their peers in every science grade level, often resulting in either 4 or 5 times higher than the state averages. So overall, in all areas and subject matters, the students in Glen Rock are outperforming their state average peers. So more collectively, some interventions that we will continue to work on. We are developing professional development opportunities for our teachers that are targeted based upon the data for their individual students. We are going to further collaborate between special education and general education teachers. Of course, that overall review of data, and continuing to work with multi-tiered system of supports, and then of course responsive teaching practices. So in terms of our multi-language learners, they participate in the WIDA testing. So this test is given across all grades in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. The exit criteria is a 4.5 or higher. So because of our small sample size, we are not able to report on that, although I will say since the beginning of the school year, we've already had students exit out based on other alternative assessments. Similarly, we offer the dynamic learning maps assessment. These are for our students who are unable to take our NJGPA or NJSLA assessments. It's just simply not appropriate for them. We will be offering that same assessment moving into this spring, and due to the small sample size, that data is not able to be displayed tonight for privacy reasons. Okay.
All right, thank you. And then just the last thing on the slide here, the resources for the the Department of Education, where the assessment information is found, and also where the school performance reports are found. The performance reports aren't published, like I said, until the springtime, so you can look now for last year's, but all of this information that we just spoke about today is not there yet. Likewise, other districts are not posted there yet.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Van Ness. Thank you so much to all of our supervisors and administrators here to give us this wonderful presentation. Thank you for the hard work, as well as the numerous amount of questions that you fielded last week while many of us were on vacation, so thank you. All right, and any questions or, yes?
Mine is more of a logistical question. The students who go out of district because they have special needs, are their scores are included in
Ooh,
our,
Dr.
and
McKay,
the
do you
reason
have
I
an
asked that is, I remember when I was working in a school and we'd get the scores of the kids that lived in our school neighborhood, but they were out of district. They're tied to us, right? That's what, okay,
So
thank you.
the answer is the out-of-district students that are Glen Rock residents, we have their scores
Correct,
included in
okay.
ours.
So those are all factored into there as well, even though they don't go to school here. Okay, thank you. I just think it's important that people know that.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, so thanks so much, very much for the presentation. It's great that we're diving into the data. What's even better is that we're not just looking at the great results, but also looking at opportunities and options to improvement. So I really appreciate that, especially in the middle school. I see firsthand the change from elementary school to middle school, and so the fact that we're putting emphasis on that is something great to see. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Corey?
Just to call out two things that I think helped to understand the presentation. One was I really appreciated the cross-cut of the data. This is a lot of data, a lot of bar charts, and to be able to guide us through reading the cohorts throughout, that was that's not what the data is presenting, but that narrative helped kind of see a different story. So, looking forward to how that story's following the students throughout their student career here. And then also the other comment that stood out to me is identifying ways to help exceptional students in this. If we're seeing students that are growing and then their growth rate stops accelerating, well, that's a second derivative. So I really appreciated seeing that response to that and seeing how you can identify that if it was the sixth grade, and then that might be able to follow the students on later and then continue to accelerate a path. So appreciate all this work.
Absolutely. I'll also say, when it came to even the math presentation and looking at some of the intervention program, the BSI, I thought that was also, like a phenomenal situation where we're able to work with those students that, may not be meeting the standard. And so I'm looking forward to how that program develops over time and have full confidence. Thank you. Thank you for the whole team and what you did today. Really encouraged. All right. Thanks.
Great. Our next presentation, I believe, will be a little bit shorter. Gentlemen, I hope it will be a lot shorter. Is about artificial intelligence integration. We've talked about this some in the past, and we wanted to bring these gentlemen up to talk about the good work that we've been doing and the work we're looking forward to doing. So, gentlemen, take it.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight to talk about artificial intelligence and how we're integrating it into our classes. So I'm going to start off. November 2022, ChatGPT, the end of the month, comes out, and education as we know it changes. Just like a lot of things that came out, Google came out, was a massive change. The calculator, a massive change. So the pace of AI development since the introduction of ChatGPT has really been a center of a national conversation around what do we do with AI in schools and how do we deal with it. One of the things I'd like to talk about very quickly is we were ahead of the curve. In September of 2022, we actually launched a AI and machine learning 8th grade elective in computers for our students. So even before ChatGPT, which really brought AI to the forefront, came out, we actually had a course available to our students. Now, I'll date myself here. If anyone remembers Clippy from Word, very basic AI. AI has been around. It's nothing that is new. If you do texting on your phone, And there's word prediction, it's AI. These are all things that have been around. It just came to a forefront when ChatGPT came out. There's been programs like ChatGPT around for years. They just were not as easily accessible. So these emerging technologies, we're kind of trying to change the tires on our car as we're driving at 100 miles an hour down the highway to keep up with what's going on. So as teachers try to figure out what they're doing in the classroom, as administrators try to figure out what the teachers are doing, as teachers try to figure out what the kids are doing, we've got to look at all of these different pieces and come up with a plan of how we can integrate AI, which is, in my opinion, an excellent resource, as long as it's used ethically. When it's used ethically and responsibly, it is a great resource for our students. So Mr. Morelli and I have been working for the last few years, actually, on a lot with AI, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation tonight.
Thank you again for having us. So I'm going to speak just briefly about how we've been approaching this as an administration for the last few years. Really, there's two questions that I think have guided us as we've tried to navigate this, and I think Paul said it well. We're changing the tire while we're driving the car. I think we're on the 5th iteration of ChatGPT right now since November of 2022. And that's just going to keep happening more and more. Not to mention that we're talking about ChatGPT, there are so many other large language models that are out there. So on top of that, another thing that we'll speak about is for every freely accessible large language model or Gen AI model that a student can access, there are, I don't know, dozens of ed tech companies that are trying to sell us different products that we might be able to use. And part of what we've been working on, really, I'd say since the summer, is trying to figure out which would best serve our students' needs so that we're not just spending a lot of money on something because it's flashy, but really something that's going to be beneficial to our teachers and our students. And it's really been guided by these two questions. The first of all is, how can teachers ethically use AI in terms of use their instruction to teach students about the ethical use of AI. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like a little bit later on, but just for example, is there a way that something like Gemini or ChatGPT can help as almost like a personalized tutor that a kid is accessing with explicit instruction and direction? The other thing that comes along with it is the assessments and academic integrity. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that cheating has been going on for a really long time, basically since the beginning of school, right? If there is any sort of instance that you've ever heard of a parent helping a child with homework, or a college advisor that has been editing essay, or a tutor helping a kid with an SAT, there is an external resource that's been helping students to get through their different projects that they're working on. None of that is considered cheating necessarily, right? These are resources that kids are learning how to access. Now they have this tool that they've never seen before, and I will say personally, as somebody that is in a certification program right now, and over break was working on a 30-some-odd page action research project, I understand the appeal to when you have a major, big deadline and a lot to do, why a tool like that would be appealing if you were looking to cut corners. And if you're a 6th or 7th grade kid who doesn't really understand the implications of this yet, and the other skills that you're still trying to develop, that is incumbent upon us to teach them that ethical use, and to then also redesign our assessments accordingly so that teachers are able to measure what students are learning and what they know and are able to do. And we'll go more into that, but I think it's just important, if you walk away with nothing else this evening, that's really where we're starting from. And as we continue to navigate how our school district can best serve our students, it's really through those questions. Another thing that
Can I just jump in there for one second? Just two things very quickly. One, when we say ChatGPT, it's like saying Kleenex. There's a lot of different AI resources out there. We're using ChatGPT kind of as just because it's the most popular when it came out. The other point is building upon what Mr. Morelli said, just about looking at assessments. We find that a lot of students, when they use AI, it's taking the path of least resistance. So when I have 2 tests, a project, and I've got to write an essay, the easiest thing to do is to drop the essay into an AI large language model and have it return something to me. Because we have students who are taking, how many AP classes was our valedictorian last year? 18?
I think 18.
our valedictorian last year had 18 AP courses. So think about that stress level that our students are under when they're taking all of these high-level courses. So what we want to do is also look at, and it's one of the things we've done with workload planning and Schoology, look at how we can space out what the students are doing, and also looking at the assessments of what we're giving them. So it's not just how to use AI, like typing on a keyboard. We're trying to teach them skill sets, not how to use a specific model of AI or a specific tool. It's teaching them skills, mainly critical thinking and questioning. So I just wanted to put that in there to build upon what Mr. Morelli said.
Sorry, thank you. So what you have up on this next slide is outdated because we gave this slide to Mr. Van Nest a couple of weeks ago, and while we were on break, there was a New Jersey Department of Education broadcast that gave us an update on the information literacy standards. So the timeline's up there. I'm not going to read it to you because you all know how to read, but this idea of no public date for publication or implementation, there is now a public date for implementation, and that's going to be September of 2027. So we have some time on this, but essentially, just to give you some context, the state 2 years ago passed a law that said that there has to be information literacy standards developed and taught grades kindergarten through 12 in all New Jersey public schools. We've been doing the work that we've been talking about already this evening, but we've been a little bit hesitant to make major curricular revisions knowing that these standards are coming. Doing curriculum revision is really time-intensive, resource-intensive, money-intensive work for the administration and the teachers involved. It's asking teachers to come in over the summer and give up their time. It requires weeks and weeks of prep during the spring, all summer, and then continue revision during the school year. So what we'll talk about is how we've been supporting teachers, but the actual curriculum revisions haven't happened yet because we've been waiting for these standards. We didn't want to do something and then have to then go back and change it again when the standards came down. Essentially, what's going to happen, though, is that one of the strands of the standards is career readiness, life literacies, and key skills, and they're going to add a whole new strand in that's going to be on information literacy. I'm going to be very honest with you. There is so much in this right now. We as an administrative team have not had time to unpack this because the state just published it on Tuesday for discussion on Wednesday. And the implementation won't be until September of 2027. But I think it's all the more important that the work of the supervisors is going to have to be making sure that they are leading their departments to work with their teachers on how do these specific standards, which are content agnostic and skill-based, how are they going to best fit the different disciplines? Because the way that you're teaching about AI and information literacy and mathematics is going to be very different than what you're doing in social studies. So it's something that our plan, and the state is asking, that it is infused K-12. We want to drill down and figure out how can these meet the interdisciplinary connections in each subject once we can really dig into the standards. But ultimately, the other thing that we have realized is that there's more stuff on some of the educational technology, the actual AI learning type stuff, like the actual content about what AI is and what it does, is very, very minimal. It's much more how do you learn how to navigate and critically ask questions and assess the information that's in front of you. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cusack. He's going to talk a little bit about where we currently have AI in our curriculum as it currently stands before we put these new standards in.
If you actually look at the NJSLS, the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, there's actually only 2 standards in all of the standards that reference AI. So all of our standards that we have right now were either adopted in 2023 or 2020. So they're prior to the release of all of these AI models. Even though ChatGPT came out in November of 2022, the 2023 standards were written, formalized, agreed upon, and sent to the districts prior to that. They were just needed to be implemented by 2023. So a lot of the standards do not, or a lot of the areas do not have anything about AI in them. As I said earlier, our Creativity in the Digital World class that we started in 2022, also our Intro to Coding class in middle school, they both cover AI. They give a foundational idea of what it is, how it works. Last year, we started our 6th grade seminar. All 6th graders have to take it. It's a quarterly course. And one of the things that they talk about is the ethical use of AI. That's one of the units that they do. In high school, our computer science courses all cover AI in some aspect. And we do have future plans for looking at AI, cybersecurity, AI networking, and offering some other courses. We're proposing to offer AI cybersecurity and AI business, AP business, business principles next year. This is to say courses that have a large part of AI in their curriculum. That doesn't mean that it's not talked about in other courses. I oversee TV media. I know that they talk about fake news, how you can use AI to make Will Smith look like he's eating pasta. There's so many different things out there that you can do with AI. They talk about it in social studies and ELA. I'll let Mr. Morelli talk about that a little bit later. But it's talked about in our classes. When can it be used by students? When can it not be used by students? Teachers have to give the students express permission to use it for assignments. So they talk about the ethical use of it and what they're able to do. So although it's not in all of our courses as part of the curriculum, because teaching AI to teach AI isn't really beneficial for the students. Teaching the students critical thinking and questioning skills is what we want to be doing, because that's the benefit of AI. What can I gain by asking a question? How do I then take the results that I get from that question and ask a better question and get more information and then build upon what I'm trying to do? The amount of things that students can do with AI, personal tutoring, instant feedback on their own writing. We did a great workshop last year for teachers where we had them put one of their lessons into AI and asked it to give them feedback on their lessons. They can do the same thing with students. Have the students ask AI a question. Let it generate an answer for them. Then as a class, work in groups to evaluate the response. How well did AI respond? I know when ChatGPT first came out, it was great at citing sources. It made them up, but it gave you cited sources about what you were learning about. So teaching them that they need to understand that it's not all perfect. You can't just put something into AI, expect it to spit something out and go, this is all 100% correct. It struggles with math. It's gotten better, but it struggles with math. So there's a lot that goes into learning about AI. Instructionally, how do our teachers use it? We've had Turnitin in this district for at least a decade. Turnitin now has its academic integrity for AI detection. AI detection. It works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. There's great AI detection out there that you can pay for, and if you take 2 pieces of writing and put them into 2 different AI detectors, one's going to tell you that it's 100% AI, and the other one's going to take the same piece and tell you that it's 100% human generated. So the best way, and we always say this to teachers, when they think that the students might have cheated and they've used AI detection, have a conversation with the student. You know their writing. If you sit down with someone and you ask them about what they wrote, and I think that means you know that they didn't write it. But if they can sit down and have a strong conversation with you about what they did, it's a great way to be able to see what your students are actually doing. I'm going to jump down to the bottom one, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Morelli about the ethical use. Teacher support. So what can we do with it? Generate questions. I know when I was in the classroom and you had to create sample questions, you had to sit there, you had to write them out, you had to have the solutions. AI can do that for you. With the elementaries, planning in a win period, what can I do for that higher level achieving student that we were talking about earlier? We don't want to worry about only the middle or only the bottom. We want to worry about everybody. So we want the students on both ends and in the middle to be given opportunities to be challenged and advanced. Adjusting Lexile levels. So if you have students who have IEPs and their reading level is not on grade level, you can take text, put it in, adjust the Lexile level. Providing accommodations to students. All of our students in district have access to Google Read and Write. It's by Everway now. They renamed it because it got changed. Grammarly. There's so many others. We have a student who's using Otter AI. If you've ever used Otter AI, it's a great program. It records, summarizes, gives you action steps on what you need to do. So it's ways that we can help students. Ms. Krapel spoke earlier about what they're doing in 6th grade with the interactive vocabulary list. We have a French teacher who's using Brisk, which is a great AI resource that pops up right on a Google Doc where the students can use. So our teachers are going out there and finding resources, coming back to their supervisors, asking questions about it, and then we're helping them to move forward with it. So I'm going to turn it over.
Yeah, so just really briefly, in terms of how teachers are using it as well, they're using it as a teaching tool. So just to use ChatGPT as an example, in social studies classrooms, you might, or an English classroom, you might have a teacher have the student put a prompt into a prompt into ChatGPT, and then have them work together in groups to analyze the analysis, to analyze the strength of the evidence, to look at the historical accuracy, to look at and source the sources themselves. And then that way they're not just teaching argument construction and reinforcing skills that they would have been teaching anyway, but they're also showing them what are the benefits and drawbacks of using AI. The other thing that I think is important is that I don't need to remind you that there is a board policy that says every teacher needs to make a decision about whether or not there is AI allowed in any instruction. Our middle and high school student handbook says it is not allowed unless given explicit permission. So now in my role as assistant principal, it's come across my desk a couple of times, and I will say that every time it's happened so far this year, the teachers have approached it by having a conversation with the students first, and the punishment is that the kid just has to redo the assignment. Because the main issue is that we don't know what you know and are able to do if you didn't do the assignment, right? If you just popped an essay prompt into Gemini and it spit it back out, we don't know how much you know. And that conversation has gone a really long way. The parent conversations that I've had to have, as a follow-up, have all been very productive, and the students recognize that it's the teachers trying to make sure that they've done their jobs and that they can accurately assess where the students are at. So it's not just being introduced in like a gotcha sort of way. Teachers are being proactive about it as well. Mr. Cusack's going to speak briefly about a couple of the other instructional tools that we have specifically been using.
So last year, as part of a grant, we piloted between 5th and 9th grade Conmigo. For those of you, we talked about Conmigo last year. What it does is it allows you to use Khan Academy, but it gives you, under their paid side, a tutor. So the students have access 24/7 to Conmigo, who is the little icon in the corner, and they can click on it and ask it questions. And the great thing about it is it won't give you the answers. It'll talk to you about how to go through the steps and what to do. All of those chats are recorded. They're monitored by the teachers. If the students do something that's inappropriate, it's flagged and the teachers can see it. So we piloted that 5th through 9th grade. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. We did it in math, ELA. Those are the two major areas that we approached it. ChatGPT and Gemini and other AIs that we're using, as Mr. Morelli said, students are allowed to use it if they're given express consent by the teacher, but it's a great way to generate ideas and draft content. It's a great way to take something that you've done and ask it for feedback. It's a great way to practice your critical thinking skills. The ability to think critically and to ask good questions. Anyone can type a question into ChatGPT or Gemini, it's going to spit something out. But what do you do with that information? How do you then build upon your thinking? Because if you look back and you ask the students to generate something in AI and ask it a question, take that, analyze it, ask it better questions, dive deeper, and then you ask the students to actually turn in their whole chat with GPT, with ChatGPT or Gemini, it will show you their thinking. What they read, what questions they asked, how they then revised their ideas, and where they were able to go with their thinking. So the big thing we want to do is develop those questioning skills, teach them to verify sources. One of the big things that we have to look at with AI is it's from a large language model that's built on everything in the internet. What biases are there? How is that information that's being used on the internet? Because it takes everything on the internet, not just great vetted sources. It takes everything on the internet. So teaching those students to vet their sources and look at what they're doing to really read deeper into it. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Morelli.
So another thing that I think is important to emphasize is that we've been spending a lot of time in thinking about how to provide teachers with support on this. There have been a series of workshops that we've offered. As we mentioned earlier, ChatGPT dropped in November of 2022. We actually offered a workshop during the March 2023 Professional Development Day to any interested middle and high school faculty that wanted to think more about what AI looks like in their classroom, especially around not just effective instructional strategies, but how it interfaces with academic integrity. We also brought in a consulting firm, Kiker Learning, that had done professional development, as well as the supervisor team worked together to do professional development in September and October of 2023. At that point, it really sort of pivoted more to ongoing conversations happening at faculty meetings and department meetings, and we worked together as an administrative team in the summer of 2024 to revise the student handbook. But I do think what is important to emphasize is that there is nobody in this district that is an expert on this. There are very few people, I think, that can actually claim to be experts on this in the state of New Jersey. So we may read sometimes online that X district is doing something or Y district is doing something else. I can tell you from the professional organizations that I'm involved with, everybody is trying to figure this out at the same time, and everybody is trying to, again, to use the analogy, build the plane while we're flying it. So we'll talk a little bit more about the suggestions and the direction that we would like to take, but it's going to take considerable resources and time to help our faculty feel comfortable and to continue to feel like they are confidently using something that is ever-changing and that for most of us is so far removed from our generation in terms of being digital natives that the students are definitely 5 or 6 or 17 steps ahead. So. Yep.
So evaluation and assessment of effectiveness of what we're using. The most effective tool we have is our conversations with our teachers. They're in the classrooms, they're working with the students, they see what the students are doing on a daily basis. They're the ones who come to us and say, I'd like to try this. A student showed me how I can do this. They're the ones who are saying, students are doing this. How can I, as a teacher, adjust my teaching practice or my assessments? So those conversations, it's authentic feedback, it's boots on the ground in the classroom. As Mr. Morelli said, it's an ever-changing landscape. Every day something changes with AI, and none of us are experts. We had the Conmigo pilot. We did drop-in sessions pretty much every other week where teachers could come, talk about what was working, talk about what wasn't working, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. Based on their direct feedback, the decision was made not to purchase the program at that time because it wasn't giving us the return on investment for what we would have had to pay for it. I know my department meetings, and I know all of my fellow supervisors, at the department meetings, it's always a conversation of what's going on in the classrooms and talking about AI. I know that the middle school, high school, professional learning communities will focus on AI generation, some of them, in the 25-26 school year. So we're always talking about it with the teachers. Obviously, when the teachers want to use something, we do vet it. I know I had a teacher who asked me to use something. I met with the representative from the company online. We did a Zoom. We talked about it, what could happen, what couldn't happen, what information it gives out. And through that discussion, a decision was made on whether or not to use the product. Academic integrity.
We've already spoken about this, and I know that, that it is getting late, so I will just say again, like, what this comes down to is that the teachers have to give explicit permission. The one thing that I will, just to piggyback on something that Mr. Cusack said, we have been actively exploring other options with regard to these ed tech AI platforms. Just as an example, Ms. Craples before spoke about the program that they're using for vocabulary in the middle school. The real benefit to that, besides the one-to-one personalized learning, is the back end that you as a teacher can see to be able to analyze the data that you're getting on your students. All of the programs that we're looking at have some sort of function like that available, and basically if that's not included in the package, or if it's something that is not, if it's still being beta tested and wouldn't be available, we've taken it off our list, because we're trying not to make sure that we're spending money or asking teachers to use something that's really just like a shiny new toy, and really instead going to give them helpful information for their instruction and assessment. With that, one thing that we also have, would you like to? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cusack, I don't want to.
I want you to steal my slides. So what we're doing, and what we've talked about, is starting an AI task force for middle school, high school. It's going to be 6 to 8. We've already actually reached out, faculty members, both buildings, across the departments. We're going to have them look at what we've been doing, asking them what they've been doing, getting all this information together so we can make a good decision on what we want to do moving forward. As Mr. Morelli said, we've been meeting with companies about what programs we can use. There's Power Buddy through Schoology, there's School AI, there's Brisk, there's 2 other ones that we've looked at. The other thing that we're looking at, besides whether or not they have that back-end information, is when you enter information into ChatGPT, it becomes part of the large language model. When you do it in all of these other programs that we're looking at for schools, our data doesn't go into their large language model. So any information that we have doesn't become part of that large language model. And we need the students to understand that, because when they type something into ChatGPT, it's now out there. So if they're putting any personal information in there, it becomes part of that large language model. So we're looking at security, confidentiality, and all of these things as well when we do this. So what we want to do is, through the task force, be ready to make a decision to pilot, hopefully in the spring, and then for the 25-26 school year, have something in place that is a single place we can go to for all of our AI needs, because we have teachers going out building sources on this site, having the kids go here, looking at vocabulary over here. So it's starting to have us log into a lot of different places. We want to bring that all into one central hub. And we're going to ask the AI task force to help us with that, to give us the teacher input. So it's not just top down saying this is what we're going to do. We're getting the teacher and stakeholder input.
And so really, just to wrap up, I think what it comes down to is that, we want to partner with the board with regard to the direction of how much we dive into this, because this could be a full throttle professional development initiative, but we have a lot of other things that we need to think about, like that NJSLA presentation that you just heard. And to be completely honest, a couple of years ago, our March PD Day is a collaboration with the GREA. We had members of GREA leaderships tell us there are other things that teachers want to focus on besides AI, because we've been spending so much time on it at the beginning of that school year. And we want to make sure that we're being supportive and listening to those teachers as well. So there's a lot that we can be doing, and there's a lot for us to explore. I think that the reality is we all, and I put myself first in this, have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that the changing nature of what's happening at the college level, the changing nature of what's happening in the workplace, doesn't necessarily align or flow directly to what you're going to do at a K-12 level. And so we just have to figure out what would be best for Glen Rock moving forward. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Wow.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. So thank you so much for that presentation, a very thorough presentation. I think, you've laid it out pretty clearly as to what we can expect in the near-term future, as well as the ongoing challenges of, essentially pinning a tail on a moving donkey. And so I look forward to everything that you're going to do. And I would also ask, do you think that the board policy on AI is at all like creating a limitation for you, or is it's in alignment? Okay.
Not at all. I think what is in board policy right now is very open and has given us a ton of leeway. So we have felt very comfortable just moving in the direction of, following the information that we have available to us. I think keeping it, probably the thing that I think is strongest about the policy right now is that teachers will not be told, or the district will not make a statement at any point that we won't be using AI. That is in there, and I think it's really important that we are embracing it, so.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
One thing, I did meet the guy that invented Clippy, and he was not very proud of it, but he did invent also the red line under spelling mistake, and he was very proud of that part. But in another manner, I know from college kids that they're struggling with trying to understand like what's right or wrong with AI and how to use it. I know in my workspace people are trying to figure out what's the right, and there's positive and negative, and there's good ways to use it and wrong ways. So it's great that we're actually thinking about it from the school level, from the elementary to high school, and just preparing them for next level and next steps of life. So that's great.
Thank you so much. All right, so it is 8:52, and we have some patient children and parents, and we'll open up our first of two public comments periods. Please state your name and address, and you have, yes, go for it. Is the microphone on? I want to make sure.
My name is Penny Unger, and I live at 247 Gramercy Place. Good evening, and I am here to represent Fall 2025 Girls on the Run team. Each season, we choose a community impact project to try to bring positive change to our community. This season, we all agree that one change that is needed in our school is that the middle school should have a playground.
My name is Alicia, and I live at 27 Buckingham Place. While my teammates and I are currently in grades 3 to 5 at Central, Coleman, and Hamilton, one day we will all attend Glen Rock Middle School. We also have siblings there currently, and they say that recess can be boring. While some students, mostly boys, may bring a ball to throw around, others are left with only the choice between walking the track or standing in place. Even big kids need fun ways to get their energy out, and kids behave better after they get the chance to do so. For this reason, adding a playground could even make some misbehavior in the classroom go away.
My name is Aurelia, and I live at 96 Thornbury Avenue. For recess to truly give your brain a break from learning, it should feel free and filled with possibilities. A playground adds a fun way for kids to get active and decompress. Finally, students spend a lot of time at school, so it's important they have things to look forward for that feel fun. 100% of our participants that we surveyed agreed that playgrounds are fun and fun matters.
My name is Camila, and I live on 38 Radburn Road. Our team has done our research and found the Compan Super Combi 3 playground that can support 17 adult bodies at one time costs $25,200. We researched the fitness playground because we have heard that middle school students don't have PE every semester. We also thought it was important that this playground work for high school students too.
My name is Allie Murdoch, and I live on 50 Rodney Street. It could be used for strength during PE by sports teams and get extra strength training outside. We also think that the younger kids would use this playground when their siblings have sporting events at the high school. Adults who exercise on the track could use it to do pull-ups too. In this way, a single playground would benefit a lot of people. My name is Selena Ponte. I live at 360 Highwood Avenue. I would like to thank you for listening to our proposal. We would like to know when we can meet or discuss our ideas forward. We are willing to do more research and help fundraising if it can make a Glen Rock Middle School playground a reality. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right. All right, thank you, girls. We will be in touch. Thank you. All right. All right, that was nice. Anybody else for public comments, preferably on board action items for our first set? All right. If not, seeing no other public comments, we'll close at 8:57. All right, for personnel, can we get a motion to discuss P1 through P3? All right, Liz, seconded by Karen. Liz, seconded by Karen. All right, so discussion. I'll start by saying that I am honored and thrilled to have you as our acting superintendent. I look forward to you thriving in this role, and I'm really appreciative of everything, so thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, it feels like we were in a storm, and now we have somebody to guide us to a little bit of a calm water. So again, thanks so much, and we appreciate it. I said it before, I say it again. While we agree on some things, but we don't agree on other things, you've always been professional, respectful, and enjoyment to work with. So thank you very much.
I echo those comments, and thank you for stepping up and for serving us, and I'm looking forward to this new chapter for the board.
All right. All right. If you could please call roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Perlanis?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just wanted to say a couple words, and first is thank you to this board. Mr. Cohen, I think going through a storm is a good metaphor for what this board has been through lately, and I want to thank you for the hard work that you have done to get through that storm. I know it hasn't been easy, and it's been more than some of you bargained for when you joined the board, probably. So I would just want to thank you for that and your continued service to the schools and the community. I also want to thank you for putting your trust in me. You know, I'm here to do good things for this district, and working together with all of you is how we will get that done. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to congratulate Ms. Paralamas and Dr. Pucci-Bender and Mr. Tang for their elections victories last week. I look forward to working with all three of you as well. And you know, just to kind of sum up, I'm looking forward to the work here. I know there's a lot. Some real goals that I have are better communication, more cooperation within the district and administration and board and the community. I seek to have more community engagement. You've heard from our supervisors today, and they are fantastic, and we shouldn't be keeping them secret, right? They should be working with lots of people so that they can hear the good news that we're doing. And also just thinking about what are our bigger goals here, right? There's been conversation about test scores today and rankings last time, and those are important things, but they're not the only things that define us as a district. And so I'm looking forward to more conversation about what does that mean? You know, Glenrock schools are excellent, but we're always looking forward to getting better. And what do we all envision that to look like is what we're going to be talking about moving forward, and really just keeping on the tradition of excellence that we have here.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to reestablishing, the communication patterns that you're also comfortable with, and figuring out the rhythm with the community. So it's just kind of like a reset period, and we're all learning each other. A new team, newly elected members coming in as well. So looking forward to it. All right. So thank you. On to our general items. So policy. In terms of, is there anything?
I have nothing to add on this, and haven't been part of the conversations with these. This is one of those that I need to get my feet under me a little bit more.
Okay. All right. No problem. So with regards to like even the student sun protection, I think, I know with this and our legal services, we've been on like first read for a little bit here. I think before we even go to finalizing anything with student sun protection, one thing I would just ask, just to close the loop, is just what the staff and our administration have to say about it.
I'll work with Dr. Daniel, who supervises the nursing staff, and get recommendations for you. If we can, we'll get it on the agenda next. Otherwise, we'll do it in December.
Sounds wonderful.
I don't think we're applying a lot of sunscreen between now and December.
I think it's
so
safe to
I think
say,
we'll be okay.
especially after today's abrupt weather change. With legal services, I think we last decided that the method of communication between us and our lawyer wouldn't change, that it would either be primarily through the board president or through yourself, and Mr. Canellis has direct contact. Other than that, nothing changed, and we would adopt the Strauss-Esme recommendations. Any questions, or did you have something? Mm-hmm.
So just to give everybody the update, the policy committee met and we reviewed the mandatory policies that were missing based on the NJSBA review. Some policies requires the business office input, some policies requires Vanessa update, so we'll collect all the information and then we'll review and then present it. One policy about the school nutrition, we want to collect information from other boards, from other towns in New Jersey to see how they addressed that policy and how they implemented it. So we'll compile a list of policies that seem relevant, and we'll send it to everybody to review.
All right, thank you very much. Were you going to say something? Oh, okay. One thing I wanted to ask about that after our NJSBA conference was, so I understand, like Strauss-Esme will have a set of policies, and then the NJSBA has also a set of policies. I know that the policy numbers and all of that are different, and are the things that were identified from the NJSBA policies, like?
Yeah, we managed to match about, I think, everything except from one, and so that one we should ask the Strauss-Esme about the explanation.
Okay.
But other than that, there's like correlations, and you can find the numbers. And however, some of the policies seemed out of date in Strauss-Esme's, and we got the latest version. So we need clarification from them and probably from the JSBA to clarify. Maybe they have a better version or more updated version. But I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, they're basically competitors of each other. So they don't, number one, they don't match in the numbering, which sometimes makes it difficult. The other is they can interpret laws and requirements differently. So the one we saw that was different, Strauss-Esme believed was not a mandatory, and NJSBA did believe it was mandatory. So we'll investigate it, we'll get the answer and get back to everyone. But other than that, we're in very good shape, I think. What we did learn from the audit is we're doing very well.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So no new items on governance. INP, the co-op?
You know, it's been a long meeting when the business administrator is speaking about instruction and program. Just a real quick update, the girls hockey co-op has been progressing. We issued a revised contract to Ridgewood for their execution. The co-op has been approved by the NJSIA, so I think we are moving on track to have an action item on the 24th for the board to ratify the agreement and to move forward with the co-op.
All right. Any questions, comments, anything? All right, thank you. We have special services. I know one thing that, I could mention it now, or liaisons, but Stephanie submitted to me was there's a seminar called Preparing Students with Disabilities for College Success. Glen Rock CPAC presents the transition from high school is challenging for any high school student. For students with disabilities, it also presents a disability service system that is very different from the one they knew in high school, but with the proper preparation, students can enjoy success. Author and University Learning Disabilities consultant Elizabeth Hamblett, who's the author of a book about 7 Steps to Success, a pathway for students with disabilities, explains the difference in the prevailing laws, what that means for how students access accommodations, and shares some commonly approved accommodations with a Q&A. So this presentation is Wednesday, November 12th. It's this Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. It's on Zoom. And she wanted to share that, so that's wonderful. Thank you. Management and community, nothing. All right, fiscal management.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. So as part of the fiscal goals that we have this year was to look at our health insurance policy that we have and our participation in the state plan. So this will be our formal report out on that. So we had requested the claims report for the period of July 2023 through June of 25. We received those reports from the state. They are not very detailed. They really just give you a summary of premiums collected and claims paid. They don't really give you insight into the type of claims, the length of claims, the severity of the claims. It's really very vanilla. And they also give you a even more vanilla extract on prescription drugs. So they don't give you an idea of what type of prescription drugs or what have you. So it's very generic information, and that's the best that we can get from the state. That's what everybody would get when they request such information from the state. So we received those, and we immediately submitted that information to our benefits broker, Brown & Brown. Brown & Brown did their analysis on the reports, and they came to a claims rate of 129%. And what that translates to is that for every dollar of premium that's collected, the insurance company is paying out $1.29. Obviously, that's not a sustainable situation for the insurance company, and thus we see the various and large increases in our health insurance coverages. I think this year it's in excess of 30%. So in order that the underwriters are looking for a targeted claims rate of about 85%, which allows for about a 15% profit margin for them. The environment with 129% claims rate, in order to possibly leave the state plan for a plan that was equal to or greater than the current plans, which we are required to do under our collective bargaining agreements, there will be no interest in us. To corroborate that assessment from Brown and Brown, while we were down at workshop, I spoke with several other insurance brokers and kind of explained to them our claims rate and what we were looking at. And they too agreed that we were not an attractive district to leave the state plan. And so what's happened is that all of the districts with favorable claims rates have left the state plan, leaving the state plan with all of the rest of us. I like to call it the plan of last resort. And really, that is kind of where we will be. There just aren't any options based on those claim rates for us to go out. And, you know, the only possibility that would be out there would be an insurance company who would give us a teaser rate and then would just absolutely annihilate us in the subsequent years, which would then just push us back into the state plan. So I think it's been generally accepted by the state and the legislature that there is a problem with the state insurance fund. I think the municipal fund is bankrupt, and the educators is following. So I think the best pattern for us is, unfortunately, to hold our position in the state plan and do what we can to mitigate our losses. So October 31st marked the end of open enrollment for 2026. Prior to that, so for insurance year 2025, we had 65% of our insured souls under the educators plan or the new Chapter 44, and 35% on the legacy plans, the old Direct 10 and Direct 15. As of the end of open enrollment, we are now have only 13% of our insured souls in the legacy plans and 87% in the educators plan. So what does that mean? Well, we know that the rates for 2026 are increasing above 30%. That is creating a $364,000 deficit for us in fiscal year 25-26 that we'll have to cover. Essentially, we have a plan towards that, primarily due to some very aggressive hiring over the summer that led to some favorable breakage that will enable us to cover that cost. So we're not worried there. Where we are worried is that when I was on the call with Brown and Brown, I made what I thought was a joke, saying that you were going to tell me in January that for insurance year 27, you'd increase it, that your thoughts are it'll increase another 30%. And you said, well, yeah, I do think it'll increase another 30%. So if we then combine the 26 insurance year 30% increase with a potential 30% increase in the 27 year, you could potentially be looking at a $2.6 million increase in the 26-27 budget above the 25-26 budget. So the numbers are large. We have to, and what that means is that our cap adjustment, right, is going to be fairly large, which means that the tax increase is going to be fairly large. Just looking at that at 30,000 feet, the math is the math, right? So that is really where we are. We will continue to monitor the situation. Hopefully some guidance will come out that will provide some insight into the 27 calendar year. The reason why I keep mentioning the 26-27 is that we're on a fiscal year that runs from July to June. The insurance fund runs on a calendar year, January through December. So in any given year, you have half at one rate and half at the other rate, which is why we have that 300 and change issue. This year, right, current fiscal year, And that back end of that is in the following, plus whatever the increase is in the 27 rates. So that's kind of where we are, and that's going to be the first bullet point of our budget meetings that hopefully will start later this month as being an, a given that and a problem that we just have to solve for. And we will. We will receive some relief vis-a-vis cap adjustment, but there is going to be a portion of that we're going to have to cover out of our own operations. So that's the story on health insurance. Any questions?
Lots of questions, but, oh my goodness. Well, thank you for that very thorough report. I think, ever since that first major bump that we had some years ago, every year we're kind of all waiting with bated breath to see, what the following year is going to bring. And having those conversations earlier and earlier to try and find ways to prepare, I think is going to be important. I mean, as we know, our budget is in education is very razor thin, right? We already have, between the salaries and benefits and things like that, we're always at or very close to our 2% cap as it is. So I think annually everyone, we all go right to, what is the increase going to be? And it's always a point of contention and uncomfortable. So thank you so much for bringing this up earlier, for bringing this information to our attention and figuring out how we can move forward with the budget committee and seeing what we can do creatively.
And we'll continue conversations. I speak with our benefits advisor quite frequently. So if something were to develop or someone was to somehow get out, or someone was looking for a partner or what have you, that could always be an option. So we could keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep in contact with them. But for now, I would assume that we would just be with the state plan.
All right. And would it also be fair to say that, I mean, this is an issue in our district, but perhaps in many other districts, it's even compounded exponentially.
This is going to be an issue throughout the state for any district that is in the state plan. If you're not in the state plan, it could have varying impact, right? It could have no impact because you did a 2-year deal last year on a private plan and you're not up for renegotiation, and you were somehow able to negotiate a flat rate, or it could be that schools that are leaving. I heard of a district locally who is, I believe, at a 76% claims rate, who actually had like a modest 7-8% increase in their costs. So it's going to impact districts differently, but it will impact every district in the state plan the exact same way.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Thanks for highlighting the fact that there's 2 different years that we're budgeting, and so it's really important that you're looking forward to 2027, dragging into 2028. This is an art form to figure out how we have to budget for this every single year. So December 31st is just halfway through our forecasting. So you're articulating that really well, even though it's such a complicated mess of guesswork. I'm just doing some math on the back here, and it looks like we might even be competitive as these state rates go up in the open market. Who knows where that'll be? But this is well outside of our pay grade. It's really important that the state takes some effort to address this, because it's a program that it is not within our control to be able to manage this. So we're doing our best, though, right here. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. And Aflac?
Sure. This is an initiative that I just wanted to make sure that the board was supportive before I tried to pursue it any further. It is AFLAC coverage for our employees, and it allow employees to purchase at their own cost, no cost to the district, supplemental dental, supplemental visions, short-term disability, which I'll come back to, hospital confinement indemnity insurance, as well as accident coverage. The reason why I said to come back to the short-term disability, so currently, all of our non-aligned employees do not have short-term disability coverage. There's not an avenue for them to acquire it. So this would, in fact, allow folks to purchase on their own a short-term disability plan, which I think is real important for them and a good thing for our people and for morale. And so with the board's approval, I would like to further look into this with an anticipated launch for the 26-27 fiscal year. And again, I'll add that it's no cost to the district. The only involvement the district has is withholding the contribution that is required of the employee and then forwarding that on to AFLAC. So if you wouldn't mind doing it, this is not a resolution, but do I have the board's approval to continue to look into this?
We don't have any other, we got no prudential such as short-term disability. We don't have anything like that here?
But only for certificated individuals.
Okay,
Non-aligned
okay,
do not have that option.
okay. I personally have AFLAC for disability and for all those other things that you said, so.
Yeah, it'll also help on the vision too, since we don't have a vision
Yeah.
policy. So it would supplement what's covered in the state plan's medical coverage. So there are a number, I mean, there's also cancer insurance. There's a ton of things that we could offer. We'll look and see potentially what is of interest to the employee base and then offer it. I will say that just because we offer it doesn't mean they'll get it. You do have to have minimum participation rates in order for the program to carry on, but we'll do the best that we can. So I will continue to work with the broker and try to get that rolling for us.
So straw poll, yay. All right. Yes, just a straw poll.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, also on to new business for the PSA proposal.
Yes, so pursuant to goal number 2 was a review of the district buildings and the creation of a priority plan of action along with budgets. So I reached out to our architects of record, PSA, and they have provided us with a proposal. That proposal is for $37,500 to do the review of all 5 buildings, and an additional $3,000 to do the major amendment to our long-range facility plan, which we would have automatically had to do anyhow because it's on a 5-year cycle, and this is our 5th year, so we would have had to do that anyhow. So we can, and really from a holistic perspective, this is the way to do, the appropriate way to do a long-range plan is to have a buildings assessment and then use that as the basis for the long-range facility plan, and then monitor as you move along and as your needs may or may not change. So if that proposal will be on the 24th for the board's approval.
All right, fantastic. Any questions? All right. Actionable items. So can I get a motion to discuss B1 through B2? All right, Ed, seconded by Christine. Questions, comments? I know we kind of already touched on this already. Anything? All right.
If you'd like, I could give a little bit of an explanation on CMP and M1 if that's wanted by the board.
Sure. I mean, I'll take it.
Sure. So the CMP, which is our comprehensive maintenance plan, and M1, they're really, they're budgeting tools, which is why they're due the November 15th of each year. And what they do is they establish minimums based upon the square footage of your buildings of what you need to spend on maintenance. We far expend those minimums. And the other function that it plays is it establishes the maximum maintenance reserve that you can have. And we are certainly well within that range as well. And then the thing to remember, these are maintenance items only. It's not new items. So for instance, we're looking at doing that phase 1 of the RTU project. That's not maintenance, that's a capital expenditure. Maintenance is, changing filters, changing a motor on an RTU, things of that nature. And the other thing to keep in mind is that our maintenance reserve, and I believe Ms. Parlamis had a question earlier about our philosophy on the maintenance reserve. The maintenance reserve is really the emergency fund. It's almost like the second emergency fund. And the district never had one up until about 2 years ago, where we established it by our budget contribution, and now we enhance it when we do our June allocations of excess surplus. So that's where we've been kind of putting money, and it serves two purposes. When something, goes unexpectedly, we could easily have a pump system go and it be a $100,000 item. This is where obviously we would go for those funds. And it could also help fill budget holes as well when times get tough. So for instance, this year we're using $100,000 to finance our painting phase 2. So it's a give and a take, but the hope is that we're appropriately budgeting in our maintenance accounts and not relying on the reserve. So that's kind of been our approach. And it's on tonight as opposed to the 24th because it's due on the 15th. So I need a motion a certified motion in order to submit it. So that's why it is on there tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, if you're able to call roll, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Parlamis?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. All right, so did you have something? Did you raise your hand? I'm sorry, okay. So nothing in operations, liaison, I gave the CPAC already, and then we will move on to public comments. Okay, go ahead.
So just two things. One, I know the girls on the run had to go to sleep, but hopefully they'll see the recording. And so it's always great that students are advocating on their behalf. So thank you. As a parent to 2 middle graders, I completely agree with everything they said and all their logical explanations. So hopefully we will talk about it in the future. So that's one thing. And the second thing, I just wanted to also congratulate Christine, Angela, and Z for the win and joining the board. I'm excited to work together and looking forward to it.
All right, ditto, agreed, thank you. All right, so at 9:28, we'll be opening our second of 2 public comment sessions. Please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Roy Clipper, 142 Winslow Terrace. Good evening, members of the board, administrators, and community members. I want to begin by recognizing the presentation tonight on the NJSLA results. It was a thoughtful and well-prepared overview of how the district dedicates time and resources to improving general education programming. It clearly shows that when district identifies a need, it knows how to respond strategically and effectively. However, the presentation that followed regarding how the district plans to improve special education program directly contradicts the actions this administration has recently taken, particularly the hiring of a new board attorney known statewide for fighting parents and blocking students from receiving the very services that would allow them to make progress and eventually meet the expectations of their same age peers. The hire also raises serious concerns about the direction of our Department of Special Services. If the district's stated goal is to strengthen special education and help students grow, then bringing in legal counsel whose reputation is built on opposing those efforts sends the exact opposite message. We also know that our district already spends significantly more per pupil on attorney fees than comparable districts. Those funds would be far better spent on children who actually need support, not defending against parents who are simply advocating for their kids. Our own family has experienced this pattern firsthand, being denied 504 plan, then denied evaluations to identify a disability, and then denied appropriate services. Unless we retain an attorney, that should never be the gateway to getting help in a public school system. We've also been told incorrectly that by code, parents must go through INRS before seeking an IEP. This is not a New Jersey law. It's a tactic that delays services and deters families from experiencing, from exercising their rights. And this isn't just happening to us. Those in charge and employed in the district are guilty of doing this, not only to our family, but to many families in Glen Rock. Many of these families have reached out to me personally, recounting their needs to hire attorneys or even remove their children from the district altogether. With this information in hand, how are we supposed to entrust a district that is not on our team and truly to help our kids? Our district is capable of great things. The NJSLA presentation proved that. But those same skills, data-driven practices, and resources must be applied to supporting all students, not just those in general education. A true measure of progress is not how hard a district fights parents, it's how well it helps every child reach their potential. I only have about 16 seconds left, so I'll tell you, I'll be back at the next meeting to further continue this. I thank you all for hearing me out. I especially thank this board for doing the difficult task of removing the old superintendent, but we need to do better, and it's got to start from the top down. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no other members of the public, we'll close our second public comments at 9:32 p.m. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? All right, Ed, seconded by Karen. And if we're able to call roll, or all those in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you.